So we're going to turn to a nice concrete topic after some great conceptual stuff in Java, where we're going to be playing with graphics. Now, graphics in Java is a library that's built into the existing system, and we just have to tap into that library to get it. And we're going to be using inheritance and polymorphism to get there. So the libraries it's coming from is something called Swing, which is Java's own version of creating graphical user interfaces, and the prior library, the initial one, called AWT, or Abstract Windowing Toolkit. Now within those is the ability to do painting, and when we talk painting, we're just basically making pixels in different shapes and colors and things like that. There are amazingly cool 3D libraries and stuff in Java. We're not anywhere near that yet. We're just going to do some nice simple line drawings and a little bit more complicated than that. But we're going to call these basic things in interesting ways and be able to draw what we want to from there. So as I said, the key to that is we have to become a component using inheritance. We're going to select the right class, we're going to extend that class out, and then we're going to use polymorphism to override a specific method called paint. And within that paint method then, we're going to be handed the graphics object. Now the graphics object is really useful and important because it's what allows us to go into and get access to the screen. We can't just create a graphics object, because in order to do that, you'd have to create a screen, display, and all that sort of stuff. We have to be handed one as created by some other component that's already tied into your screen space. And so it's a little bit different, a bit of a paradigm. We have to kind of be a little bit passive within this paradigm. And we're going to see, we're going to actually use this extended Java library called the Graphics 2D library. It's a little bit fancier. It's, again, a later version of it that came up. But the first key is getting the right class, extending it out, and then implementing an override of this paint method. All right, so once we have that point, the graphics class lets us do all sorts of stuff. It gives us access to all the basic draw techniques and lets us create shapes and color them and all sorts of cool things like that. So we can erase spaces, we can draw images, we can draw text, we can lines and shapes and clipping areas and all sorts of cool things. And this little window down at the bottom you can see here, this is actually built using the graphics library. You have draw a line, an oval, you can fill an oval, an arc, or fill an arc, making pie charts type of things, and then you have polygons and different types of rectangles and text inside of there as well. So that's what we're going to learn how to do. By using the combination of these things, and again some fancier ones that we're going to go into, we're going to go up and set up our drawing and be able to draw. So of the code that I wrote to draw that screen, I kind of clipped out a bunch of the code, and just to show you the types of calls you're going to see. So you can draw a line. When I draw a line, I go from one XY position to a second XY position. So I start at X is equal to 10, Y is equal to 10, then I go over to X, move over to 80, and then down to 16. I draw a line at a little angle. And if you go look back here, you can see 10, 10 to 80, 16, so go a lot X and a little Y, and there's your line that's getting drawn. So that's the type of thing we're going to see here. We'll play with these as we go. Each of them have their own different rules. Like an oval starts at a center point, and then it's so wide and so far up. So a circle would be 20, 20, or 60, 60. The oval is 60 wide, 20 up. And so it allows us to basically throw in some numbers to draw stuff. And for each of these methods, we have to understand what the numbers mean. And you can see inside of here, we can actually do relative type stuff too, do some variables. We're going to play with all of this. Really, this week is going to be much more about demo than about concepts. We're going to see a lot of code, but I want to give you a feel for what the capabilities are and the types of calls that we're going to see in code when we go into demo for building those things. So everything you saw drawn here is what these lines are doing here. So a single line draws each one of these items. The color shifts a little bit different. Come back to that as we go. So the text is drawn quite simply by doing a draw string. And I can set up my text by declaring a font or modifying the font. So in here I'm going to take the existing font, the existing name of the font basically. If you don't know the name of a font, you just get the one that's already there. And then I'm using plain as opposed to bold or italicized or something like that. And then I'm making it 6 sizes bigger than it starts off by default. And so that's where you can actually see down here. This sets the background white and sets all the sorts of colors. You can see that's where this is being drawn. I give it a text, I give it a position at which to draw the text, and boom, it drops it onto my screen. So as far as shapes go, there's a number of different ways I can do advanced shapes. One of them is I can build the shape as an object. And when I build it as an object, I give it details in the constructor. So using double here, there's a couple different ways I can build the shape. The shape starts at 1050. It's 50 wide, 100. I'm sorry, yeah. So 50 tall, 100 wide, I think is the way it works here. And then it's 2020 is the rounded rectangle side of it. It gives you the curvature of you want the corners of this to be. And then I go and draw that shape. There's a draw method to take some object that is a shape and draw it. So I can actually have reusable type objects and have them draw later on. Or I actually have this thing called a custom path, which allows me to define the shape as I want to. And so the custom path you can think of is like a pencil. I put my pencil, move to, and I put it down at some location, 50-50. And then from there, I do a line to 50, 150, a line to 200, 150, a line to so on and so forth. I can also just jump and move, just like a pencil. So I put my pencil down, I move it to one location, move it to another location. I pick my pencil up, drop it down another location, move it, move it, move it. So that's the kind of way this works. I create that whole path, and I can modify the path. I can make the path relative, however I want to do that. And then I go through and then I draw it later on. Or I fill it. Now notice the difference between draw and fill. Draw is a stick line of what I drew the lines. Fill colors in everything in between the space of which I drew the lines. So I can draw a house shape or a donut shape or whatever. Donut shape would be a circle. It fill everything on the inside of it. You have to just kind of play with it to see what it does. There might be multiple drawings you have to do complicated shapes, but at least I can form the type of shapes that I want to. So when we're going to build this code, we're going to see that we don't want to just throw some code out on any place. We're actually going to build our own drawing. I want to show you in the demo how this works, but we're going to use the JPanel class to create a nice blank empty canvas and have our own component, which is our own drawing. And by doing it this way, I can throw it onto a GUI screen, I could throw it onto a Java applet, I could throw it into any place where Java can be drawn. I can actually draw it into a printed picture and things like that as well. And so note that when we're going to the demonstration, just like we built components for other things through this class, like we built classes to do each individual piece, we're going to use extending a JPanel, and build our own class to do this specific picture. All right, so there's other features we're not talking about. We'll see them in the demo, but just notice I can do some playing around with the text. I can change the font, the stroke width, anti-aliasing, all sorts of fancy stuff like that if you know about it. Obviously, I can change the colors. We see different color basics going on there, but I can add in gradients or patterns or textures as well. The advanced stuff is I can do masks and clipping areas, basically places where you don't draw over. It'll clip out any drawings that end up in that area. And there's some extra links inside of here that you can go to these resources. So there's, the Oracle is what's inside of there, and there's, you can see the link inside of there. Actually, these are old links. Wow, these are pretty old links. The slides are pretty old, but java.sun.com. Actually, the best thing to do at this point was probably just Google Java graphics library or what you want to search on. But there are some links to that as well that I'll get them posted out there as well. All right, so that's the start of it. From here, let's go build some graphical stuff. We want to dive into code and really see how this works and step by step build up to a very interesting picture.